the Old Vic, which is currently hosting a play about the life of an MP where James Corden turns out to be one of your constituents. Although I believe he lives in California, so maybe he should get in touch with the leader of the opposition. And it's an honour to follow to second this loyal address, not only for me, but for my constituents across Vauxhall and Camberwell Green. And Mr. Speaker, when I was asked by the Chief Whip, my excitement was quickly replaced by fear, because I then remembered my attempt to make a Big Shack reference during the second reading of the Procurement Act bill, which went completely over the head of the member for Brentwood and Ongar, and indeed many members in this chamber. See, I nearly backed out, but then I remembered that this is my opportunity to get on record that Nigerian jollof is the best jollof. Before the member for Erith and Thamesmead has other ideas. It's nearly 15 years since the last Labour member seconded a loyal address, and it was my good friend, the Right Honourable Member for Islington South and Finsbury. And I have to say, the notices I receive when she's visiting my constituency are perhaps my favourite. I once remember receiving a note from her office saying she was going to tour the Beef Eater Gin Distillery in my constituency the next evening, and that I should join her. Now, sadly, I don't drink gin, but I know that she drank my share. I can only say that I look forward to welcoming other members to my constituency many more times during this Parliament. And can I remind all of you that it is your duty to let me know if you are attending one of the many fabulous parties in Vauxhall and Camberwell Green. Otherwise, I will be complaining to Mr. Speaker. And it truly is a wonderful constituency. We have the National Theatre, the BFI, the South Bank Centre, the Young and the Old Vic. The Old Vic, which is currently hosting a play about the life of an MP where James Corden turns out to be one of your constituents. Although I believe he lives in California, so maybe he should get in touch with the leader of the opposition. We also have the London Eye, which I'm sure the whole House will be delighted to know received permanent planning status earlier this year in May. That keeps it safe, even from the clutches and planning reforms of the Chancellor and the Deputy Prime Minister. We have communities from all over the world, and even amongst the Sea of England shirts on Sunday, there were a few brave Spanish fans proudly wearing their colours, although, Mr. Speaker, they may have been just the SNP MPs. And we're also home to a number of MPs, advocacy groups, journalists, which means sometimes when I'm trying to avoid a journalist or politely decline an invitation, I often get hit with the dreaded line, "Oh, but I'm a constituent as well." I do warn journalists and members that I'll continue with my policy of giving no special treatment when you come up to me with any casework. Like many continuing MPs, the area I represent has changed significantly in this election following the boundary review. This means that I sadly no longer represent one of the Brixton estates I grew up on, as well as my church and my old primary school. The church is central to my life, and it's a microcosm of Lambeth. After Mass, I can see the impatience on my family's face, as I often discuss varied casework from the congregation. And I just want to reassure my honourable friend, the member for Clapham and Brixton Hill, you are going to receive multiple blessings with all those varied caseworks. And I know the wards that I'll lose will be represented by her. But then again, Mr. Speaker, based on past experience, not all the journey lobbies will notice that anything's actually changed. If the House will indulge me, I wish to briefly speak to a couple of policy issues close to my heart, and those of my constituents, which I'm most looking forward to working with the new Labour government on. Now, as an MP, one of the hardest conversations any of us will have are with the victims of violent crime. I've sat in many front rooms, holding grieving mothers and fathers, and they tell me about their loved ones who've been taken too soon. And with every hug and tear wiped away, I can feel their pain and the impact that this has on the wider siblings and other family members. Crime rips communities apart, leaving too many people vulnerable and open to exploitation. And one of the areas I'm proud of working on is on preventing abuse of gang-associated girls, whose mistreatment is sadly just one example of why our streets need to be safer. The Home Secretary's commitment to halving rates of violence against women and improving support for victims should be welcomed across the House. Over the last couple of years, I've seen firsthand the impact of the cost of living crisis, and this has had on my constituents in Vauxhall and Camberwell Green and communities right across the country. We all know that tackling climate change is one of the most urgent issues facing our world, and we cannot delay any meaningful action on this any longer. I'm therefore very pleased that the government is committed to addressing both these issues with an investment in clean energy transition that will lower energy bills for households, as well as restoring the UK's reputation as a climate leader. But, Mr. Speaker, for millions of working people, real change will not come without action on housing. That's why I welcome the Deputy Prime Minister's plans to build 1.5 million new homes across the country, including a new wave of council houses, like the one that gave me and my family that security. You see, Mr. Speaker, I still remember that daily commute from a B&B in King's Cross and the excitement on my mum's face when we received the keys to permanent housing. We no longer had to lug our belongings in a black bag. But sadly, this is the case for so many people still in 2024. Vauxhall and Camberwell Green is home to a high number of people, many of whom are private renters. The power that Section 21 gives immoral landlords to evict tenants for no reason is an outrage. I'm glad that this government will finally ban no-fault evictions for good. Lastly, I'm proud to be an advocate for the eradication of HIV and AIDS, an issue on which we have made so much progress in recent months. As my fellow co-chairs of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on HIV and AIDS, in November last year we had the honour of hosting a reception in Mr. Speaker's house to thank Sir Elton John for his work in this field over the last 40 years. It was a fantastic event, and our new Prime Minister reaffirmed his commitment to ending new HIV transmissions in the UK by 2030. Coincidentally, it also means that today's Royal event, I've had the privilege of speaking, and it's the second one in the last 12 months, because we can all agree Sir Elton is music royalty. This Parliament sees a large churn of MPs, and may I take this opportunity to congratulate and welcome new members. Literally, do not worry if you get lost. I've been here almost 5 years and I still get lost. My one piece of advice is this: make sure you know where Westminster Hall is, because you'll always find the member for Strangford there, on hand to point you in the right direction. Although this is after he's finished speaking in whatever debate's going on that day. And Mr. Speaker, while it was wonderful seeing so many Labour MPs winning on the 4th of July, it was mixed with a slight sadness that we have to say goodbye to colleagues who had to cross this House with great dedication for their constituents. I'm delighted to see the member for cities of London and Westminster in her place on these benches. But I'd like to reference the importance of the work I did with her predecessor, my friend Nikki Aitken. As the two MPs responsible for Westminster Bridge, we worked together in the last Parliament, not only to commemorate the horrific Westminster Bridge attack, which happened in 2017, where 6 people sadly lost their lives, including the late P.C. Keith Palmer, we also worked to improve the safety of what is a very busy and active part of London. Nikki also worked tirelessly to make sure the Pedicabs Act was brought into law, despite the persistent objections of the member for Christchurch, which, again, I'm sure many new members will get used to. I also pay tribute to the outgoing father of the House, Sir Peter Bottomley. Yeah. Like new MPs and members, I remember walking in as a new MP into a meeting of the all-party parliamentary group for votes at 16. The room was buzzing with excitement and energy and all these young people, and to my surprise, Sir Peter was in the chair. He really proved that age is just a number. I must mention my good friend and former constituency neighbour, the new Baroness Harriet Harman. Yeah. Her 42 years in office blazed the trail for the rights of women in politics and wider society. When Harriet was elected, just 3% of MPs were women, and now this figure stands at 40%. So while there's some way to go, that rise is a testament to her undaring work and drive from Harriet to never take no for an answer. And while I'm daunted to have the responsibility of representing parts of her former constituency in Camberwell Green, I could not have had a better example to learn from. My pledge to her and to the new constituents is that I will do my best to carry on her legacy and being a strong voice in Parliament for those communities. Lastly, I cannot think of a more fitting replacement as the mother of the house than my good friend, our auntie, the Right Honourable Member for Hackney South, North and Stoke Newington. She was elected when I was just 6 years old, and seeing her in the media making a voice of black women heard in Parliament gave me the confidence that I could stand here and make sure that people in my community could have a voice in the decisions that impact them. We stand on your shoulders and we respect and salute you. Thank you. I welcome the government's plan to introduce draft race equalities legislation to build on this work, and I look forward to working with ministers to develop it. We should not underestimate the difficulties that both Baroness Harman and the Right Honourable Member for Hackney North and Stoke Newington have gone through to make their voices heard, and the challenges they face even now. But their trailblazing examples means that those of us elected today face far fewer challenges in representing our communities, and we have more friends to go through those challenges with. And because of them, Mr. Speaker, it means that a black working class girl from a South London estate can stand before you today with the honour of seconding this loyal address. Yeah.